This is Awakening. I'm Chandra Prasai and we welcome our viewers around the world. The topic for the day is motivation. And to talk about motivation, I have here with me a religious scholar and motivational speaker, Shree Santa Poudel. Santaji, let me welcome you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, motivation. We're going to talk about motivation today. And my first question to you is, what is motivation?
We've heard a lot about motivation, right? So in a general term, motivation is a reason for doing things, doing what we do. So in a way, it is an incentive for doing things. It's a stimulation, something that stimulates us to do what we do. It's an inspiration for us to do things. But when people talk about motivation, people do not understand motivation in that term. People understand it as a desire or willingness to do things. Desire and willingness that we have to do certain things, and the belief in ourselves that we have the capacity to do it is what people understand motivation to be. It came of the word motive. It means a need that requires satisfaction. So my motivation to be a doctor, my motive is to be a doctor, and I want to be satisfied until I become a doctor. So my motivation is to be a doctor in that way. So, but in general understanding, motivation simply means the reason or the reasons why we do the things we do, or our behaviors that are shaped by that reasoning.
That was a very good answer on that one, incredible answer. So why we need motivation?
Like I said before, motivation in a general term is a reason for us to do something. So there is always a reason for us doing something, right? I mean, I go shopping. The reason for me going shopping is to buy clothes or buy vegetables, buy fruits, or whatnot. So there's a motive behind doing certain things, or pretty much everything. But when we understand motivation is our willingness, our enthusiasm, our inspiration to do something, then, like I said, to succeed in our goals, it is incredibly important. Because without the willingness to do things, without you being driven towards your goal, you cannot reach your goal, because then you give up easy, right? So like I said, let me give you an example. So you want to be physically fit. That's one of your goals. For that, you got to do certain things. You got to eat healthy, you got to work out, you got to wake up early and engage in physical activities. You may have to join the gym and many things in between, right? So for that, if you're not willing to do it, how are you going to do it? How are you going to accomplish that? So like I say, there are many processes in between your goals and yourself. And the processes are sometimes long. It takes a long period. And if you are not willing, if you are not driven by your goal or your pursuit, then you are not simply doing it. So motivation is incredibly important for you to reach your goal, big or small. But when we're saying that, we should also understand the fact that it is equally challenging for us to keep ourselves motivated to that goal, because the processes are sometimes overwhelming, right? So I gave you the example of being physically fit as one of the goals. For that, there are so many processes, and it does not happen overnight. So you gotta sweat, you gotta toil, you gotta wake up early, you gotta have some sleepless nights, your body is gonna give you some pains. So if there's no willingness, if there's no enthusiasm, if there's no inspiration, then you're not simply doing it. So it is incredibly important.
So we talked about motivation and the importance of motivation. Now let's talk about the sources of motivation and the types of motivations. Are there any types of motivations?
There are different ways people get motivated. People are motivated by outside influence, the rewards or punishment. People are driven by the competition, that you want to push yourself to the limits because you are competing against the other person. Or sometimes you love doing what you want to do. So let's say, again, give you the same example. I want to be physically fit. So I love going to the gym. I love running in the treadmill or lifting the dumbbells. I enjoy doing things. I enjoy doing those things. So the motivation that comes from inside, from within you, irrespective of the consequences, you are not worried about the consequences as much, but you love doing the processes of that goal. So if you are driven by your inner desire, inner motive, inner aspiration, inner inspiration, inner feeling towards it, you love doing it, then we call it intrinsic motivation. It is based on one's analysis of one's capacity, knowledge, experience, and observation. And you are driven by the enjoyment of the task itself. So you are not worried about the goal as much, but you love doing the parts of it, the processes of it. And it is understood by the self-determination. You are determined to do it, and you have the perceived competence of doing it. So you feel like you have the capacity to do it, and you're confident that you're willing to go to the limit, going to go for a longer period, or you are going to force yourself to that goal. So that is what we call intrinsic motivation, that comes from within you. And there's another source of motivation that we call extrinsic motivation. And when we talk about extrinsic motivation, we're talking about the outside influence. So I want to go to my office on time. I want to work really hard. I want to impress my boss. The motivation behind that is the reward, that I would get promoted. I'll get bonuses. Or I do things because I fear that if I don't go to my office on time, I may be fired. So the fear of punishment. So the outside factors, outside influence determining the things we do, is what we call extrinsic motivation. Like I said, competition can be one of the extrinsic motivational factor, because we compete against each other. We are motivated by the fact that we want to beat the next person. So these are the outside influence, outside factors influencing how willing we are to pursue our goal, or our set goal. So the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivations are that intrinsic motivation are long-lasting and self-sustaining, because they come from within you and you love the task itself. Whereas extrinsic motivation are hard to sustain because it comes from outside and you are not driven. A lot of times you are not driven by the task and you are overwhelmed by the processes. So these are the distinctions. And also there are people that distinguish motivation as positive motivation, negative motivation. You can be motivated positively with the rewards and appreciation and the prizes and the bonuses, and you can be motivated with negative means, such as the fear of persecution, demotion, or getting fired. Those kind of things also motivate you to do things the way you do. So these are the sources from within you and the outside factors.
All right, so we talked about the sources of motivations and types of motivations: intrinsic, extrinsic. There might be negative, positive, achievement, fear. There might be many motivations, right? Many types of motivations. It depends on individual's perception. So now, sustaining motivation is a very tough task. And can you please tell us how we stay motivated? And are there any tips that you can share with us today so we can follow that?
That's a very good question. Actually, a lot of people struggle with motivation. When I talk about motivation, staying motivated is a tough task for many people. It's not that we don't get motivated. We get motivated easily. One success, one achievement, one accomplishment gives us a sense that we can achieve anything, right? But when it comes to sustaining that for a longer period, for bigger goals of ours, sustaining motivation becomes critical and equally hard, equally challenging. That's why one of the American authors and motivational speakers, Zig Ziglar, once said, people often say that motivation does not last. Well, neither does bathing, so we recommend it daily. So what he meant by that is we gotta keep ourselves motivated. We gotta find a way to motivate ourselves on a regular basis such that we can stay motivated. Because between us and our goal, there are a lot of processes. We talked about, let's say, I want to become a doctor. For that, I gotta go through undergrad, grad school, medical school. I gotta do a lot of hours of practice, and only then I become a doctor. For that, you're gonna have a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of tough tests, a lot of hours in the library, loneliness. You won't have time to spend with your friends and families. So a lot of these processes are so overwhelming that your motivation, if it cannot be sustained, is not going to drive you towards that goal, because these processes a lot of times overwhelm people. So it is said that people often fail in their goals or their aspirations, not because they cannot do it, but because they are not driven by the goal. So staying motivated is a challenging task, is a tough task. It needs a lot of work, and there are a few tips that you should keep in mind to stay motivated. So one of the tips that a lot of people follow, one of the things that a lot of people do, is watch motivational videos and read the biographies of some successful. And I was talking about motivational videos. There are so many motivational videos on YouTube. There have been so many biographies of successful people. We've seen the books of Michelle Obama, the former First Lady of the United States. People get motivation from them, right? The problem with these motivational videos is that the infused energy that we get from those motivational videos gradually wear down because they provide the impetus and gratification in a temporary basis. What I mean by that is, without the proper functioning of proper harmony in between our body, mind, and intellect, these motivational videos do not do much good, because they drive our mind. They make us believe that we can achieve what they did. But if our body is not cooperating with the mind, and we don't have the understanding of achieving that fit, it is hard for us to extend or sustain that motivation.
So until unless it comes within you, it's not going to long last.
It's not going to long last until it comes from within us. I was talking about intrinsic motivation, but going beyond that, what I mean by the harmony of body, mind, and intellect is that, let's say I was watching a video of a successful businessman who became a millionaire from nothing, right? He didn't have nothing, and one day he becomes a millionaire because he finds a way to become a millionaire. So I feel like I can do that too. I'm infused with energy. I'm infused with that motivation. I'm excited that, hey, I have the potential to become a millionaire myself. But until I have the understanding of how I do that, do I have the understanding, do I have the resources I need to achieve that fit? Until I have the understanding of that. I was talking about being physically fit. If I watch motivational videos on how to stay fit, I watch those fitness videos. I definitely want those six packs, right? I want the toned body for myself. But if my mind is saying, hey, hit the gym from tomorrow, be physically fit. But if my body is not cooperating with my mind, if I'm not ready to get up early in the morning, if I'm not ready to walk 3 miles on the treadmill, if I'm not ready to lift those dumbbells, if my body is not fit enough to hit the gym, then that motivation that came from watching that YouTube video, that fitness video, is not going to work on me. So the basic thing, the foundation for us to stay motivated, is to have a harmonious relationship between our body, our mind, and intellect. Normally, these motivational videos work as the energy drinks. What they do, they treat the symptoms, not the cause. So they provide us some energy for a short period. 5-hour energy gives us energy for 5 hours. After that, we crash out. But for a longer period of time, if we want to stay motivated, like you said, the motivation should come from within us. We should love going to gym. Only then we have a chance, a realistic chance to be physically fit. We should love lifting those dumbbells. We should love spending hours in the library, have some sleepless nights, get ready to get to classes early in the morning, focused on our studies. Only then there's a realistic chance that we can become a doctor. So we need to have that foundation to stay motivated, the harmonious relationship between body, mind, and intellect. Only then we can apply the tips to stay motivated. Until we have that, motivational videos may work for the mind, but they don't work for the body. They don't improve our intellect or our understanding. So have that foundation first, and then we can go from there.
So what are those tips? Can you share with us?
Sure. There are many tips. One of the problems with people not being motivated for long enough or being demotivated is the fact that they don't visualize their goals, right? So when we feel that the goal that we have is too far away from us, the processes may overwhelm us. I was giving an example of our goal to become a doctor, right? So it takes years of hard work to become a doctor. And if you feel that the goal is too far away, it's hard to keep that motivation. But if you visualize yourself being a doctor and recognized in the community, appreciated by people around you, right, respected by your relatives and friends and families, then it is easy for you to stay motivated. That is the foundation. I was talking about the harmonious relationship between body, mind, and intellect, but when we're coming for the tips of staying motivated, one of the primary tip to stay motivated is to visualize our goal, right? There are other tips too. One of the other goals is to have a deep-rooted desire, as important as your breathing. Let me give you an example. There was a master in an Indian village. He had many disciples. One day, one disciple reached to his master's ashrama, his residence, and asked him, "Guruji, religious master, how can I attain God?" Master said promptly, without any hesitation. He said, "Why don't you come early in the morning tomorrow to the river bank where I would go I would go take a shower, or I would go deep in the river. Why don't you come there? I'll tell you how to attain God." The disciple was all excited because he didn't realize that the answer would be so swift and easy. He was all excited, and the next morning, early in the morning before the sun rose, he came to the river bank. Before he could even greet his master, the master caught him by the head, drowned him, dipped his head underneath the water. The disciple struggled to get out of the river, right? Because he had difficulty breathing inside. He forced himself out of the river, and he was anxious. He was not sure what his master was about to do. Was he trying to kill him? But he didn't realize that. He didn't know if he had done anything wrong. He was
So
simply
that
asking
survival came within him.
Yeah, survival came within him. So before he could ask, "Guruji, what are you doing?" It drowned him again. He became infuriated, but all he was worried about, all he was concerned about back then was to come out of the water and take a breath, because he was having difficulty breathing. And before he could yell out, he could scream in anger and anguish. The master did the same thing again. And finally, he pushed his master aside and asked him, "Guruji, I asked you a simple question. You were trying to kill me. I asked you a simple question. How can I attain God?" Guruji simply smiled and said, as important as it was for you to breathe inside the water, as much as you were struggling to breathe for that air, if your goal is nothing but God, there is no one that can stop you from attaining God, finding God realization. So if your goal is driven by the deep-rooted desire, then you're always motivated regardless of what. I know we don't always succeed in our goals, in our pursuits. We fail. A lot of people did. But why they become successful? Let me give you an example of Thomas Alva Edison. While he was working on inventing a light bulb, he failed so many times. But when someone asked him, why did you keep trying even after so many repeated failures? He simply said, it's not that I failed. He said, I found so many ways that didn't work. And he kept going with his work. He kept going with his research. He kept going with his pursuit. If we have that deep-rooted desire, right? And if we are focused on our goal, the third tip is to have focus in our goal. Dronacharya, one of the saints in Mahabharata, one of the epic in Hinduism, he took his disciple to one of the archery tests one day. He had many disciples. He asked all his disciples, pointing to a tree, what do you see in the tree? It was an archery class. So a lot of people talked about, oh, Guruji, I saw branches, I saw so many leaves, I see the mangoes, the green ones. And Dronacharya asked the same question to Arjuna, and Arjuna promptly said, I see nothing but the eye of a bird.
So the target.
The target. If we are singularly focused on our goal, these days there are so many things that divert our attention from our goal. Right? There are digital media, social media that we love so much to engage in. We are so much worried about whether people would like our pictures, Instagram posts, and all that. We're not focused on our goals. We're divided. Our attention is divided, as a result of which we are keeping ourselves away from our goal. So if we are focused on our goal, and you gotta have sickening work ethic. Another tip is to have a sickening work ethic. You are not going to give up regardless of the consequences. You fail, but you rise back up. You stand up right back. And when you do that, right, those failures won't stop you.
So a lot of people talk about a turning point in your life, right? And sometimes you have a situation where you look at your friend circle and they're very successful, and you look at yourself, not much successful in your life, right? And you can put that into two aspects. One is to get energy out of it and have motivation to become even successful than them, or maybe get depressed and lose everything what you have.
That is really a point that I was trying to make, because a lot of people blame their situation, how they grew up, their family,
Correct.
the circumstances they grew in, the colleges they could not go instead of they could. I'll give you an example. There was a drunk man, right? He had 2 sons. So he was always on alcohol. He didn't do anything good with his life. His sons were struggling with food, even basic needs. One of the sons thought that his life, his destiny would be equivalent to his dad's. So he became depressed from within, and he could not do anything but became an alcoholic himself. The other son realized that, hey, I don't want to be like my dad. He became an alcoholic and we struggled, we suffered. I don't want that for my child. So what he did, he pushed himself to the limit, started going to school and have a good career for himself, and he came out of it. Like you said, the same circumstances can motivate us in the right direction or can demotivate us from our potentials. So it can go either way. That is why you gotta find a motivation in. You should not blame circumstances for your motivation. You should take a good lesson out of it. That is why when you set your goals, they gotta be there. They gotta have some compelling purpose, so that you can be driven, so that you can be willing, regardless of what happens. If you follow these steps, there is no one that can stop you from reaching your goals. And most importantly, if it comes from within you, if you are motivated with these processes, right? Because a lot of these processes are not instantly gratifying. Like I said earlier, spending hours in libraries is not satisfying, it's not gratifying. But if you enjoy doing it, if it is coming from within you, then you don't need motivational videos or biographies of successful people. And if you visualize those goals, reaching your goals, if you bring your goal closer to yourself, that is the key to stay motivated.
Thank you for your perspectives on motivation in your time. We spoke about different aspects, types, and tips about motivation today. I really enjoyed the conversation and hope you did too. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day and see you in our next episode.
Thank you.